Well, good evening, and welcome to the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District's Board of Trustee Candidate Forum for 2017. My name is Jason Culpepper, and I'm publisher for Community Impact Newspapers. My newspaper believes in the importance of providing unbiased and relevant information. We devote a considerable amount of coverage to education as we understand the impact it makes within your daily lives and to the overall health of our community. I will serve as the moderator for tonight's forum. Having graduated from Jersey Village High School, go Falcons, and currently serving as a trustee for the Cy-Fair Educational Foundation, it truly is an honor to take part in tonight's forum. Our students receive an incredible education thanks to the faculty and staff within our district, but also due to the leadership from the Board of Trustees. Tonight's forum will provide each candidate an opportunity to introduce themselves and field questions from the audience. I'm very excited by the volume of questions that we have to cover tonight sent from the community. It is our hope that this forum allows each candidate to voice their positions and reasons for pursuing a place on the school board, as well as give the public a chance to hear the candidates respond to questions of importance to the community. I would like to take this opportunity to mention that this forum is currently being broadcast live tonight over Channel 16 and will be rebroadcast through Election Day. The forum will also be available via live stream online, which can be found at www.cfisd.net. Tonight's process will be conducted as follows. The candidates will be given 2 minutes to simply introduce themselves and share any information they feel the community should know about their candidacy. Once we begin the question and answer portion of the forum, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. Time will be kept by Lisa Shive, Secretary to the Superintendent, as well as Secretary to the Board of Trustees. You will notice the timer in front of the tables. This timer will be programmed to warn you when you have 30 seconds remaining in your introduction and when you have 15 seconds remaining in your response to a question. You will not be cut off in the middle of a sentence or thought, but please wrap up your statement within the next few seconds. If a question is directed to a particular candidate, that candidate will have 1 minute to respond. Any candidate may offer a response to the question if they wish. I will alternate who answers first from question to question. This year's election will be held jointly with the general election. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th, and the polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Early voting takes place from October 23rd to November 3rd. Times and locations of early voting may be obtained by visiting www.harrisvotes.com. You can also access Election Day voting sites at this website. I want to remind the audience, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and someone will bring you a question form. Ms. Lisa, are you ready? All right, before I introduce the candidates, this is a reminder to please silence your cell phone. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates as they will appear on the ballot. For position 5, Dr. John Ogletree. For position 6, Don Ryan and Dr. Natalie Blossengame. Position 3, Bob Covey. 7.
It's okay, you can vote 3 if you want to.
Position 7, thank you. We'll start with the introductions with Dr. Ogletree.
Good evening. I am John Ogletree, and I've had the pleasure of serving on the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD School Board. I am in my 4th term, and my wife and I moved to this area partly because of the excellence in education in Cy-Fair. I have had the privilege of having 4 children to graduate in Cy-Fair schools. My wife has worked as a teacher and counselor in Cy-Fair, and I've had the pleasure in serving on the board in bringing 2 superintendents to our district, Dr. David Anthony, and Dr. Mark Henry. I am just as passionate today about public education and about this district and the achievements of this district as I was upon my first day serving as a board member to Cypress-Fairbanks ISD School Board. And I appreciate the trust that the citizens of this community has put in me, and I pledge to do my best to serve the students and in our district and do our best as our district's theme is opportunity for all. And that theme resonates with me, and I'll do my best for every student in this district.
Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you moderating, and I appreciate everything Community Impact does for not just the community, but also for our school district. You guys do a great job, and it's kind of awesome when you get to follow a pastor after he speaks. That's really fantastic. My name is Don Ryan, and I got to tell you guys, I'm really excited about tonight. I'm not a big campaigner, but anytime I get the opportunity to share the great news of what's going on in Cypher ISD, I jump at that. And part of the reason why is because I'm a product of this district. I attended school at Lampkin, Arnold, and graduated as an alphabetarian from Cypher High School. About 31 years ago, my wife Julie and I got married, possibly the greatest day of my life, obviously. And I knew right away that this is a community where we wanted to raise our kids. It offered everything. It had the best public school system in the state, and I wanted to make sure that our kids attended Cypher ISD schools, and they did. They attended all the schools K through 12, graduated high school with honors, and that's about the time their mother's genes kicked in. But then what Cypher ISD did is it laid the foundation for success. And really, when you talk about opportunity for all, that's what we all want as parents. We want our children to have the opportunity to succeed. And we're a great district, and we do that. In the 17 years that I've served, I've never really felt like a politician. It's just this is the one time that, we're campaigning for a volunteer gig. That kind of makes me laugh. But I really consider myself an advocate for public education and an advocate for Cypher ISD. Usually during a campaign, though, there becomes a difference between perception and reality. Tonight, I hope that we get to focus on reality and that you get to see why Cypher ISD truly provides an opportunity for all. Thank you very much.
Dr. Blassingame?
Good evening. It truly is a privilege to be here. My name is Natalie Blassingame, and I'm a mother. I'm an educator. I've spent 25 years in public schools as a teacher in the classroom, an assistant principal, a principal, district leader, and I offer my service to our community in order to bring that perspective to the board. And like many folks in our community in a fast growth district, I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I can. And so I submit to the public that even though there's not a long pedigree, just 16 little years in the district, I do believe that I bring a fresh voice and that I am a mother of a school-age child in our schools, a happy little learner who loves her school, but I also bring a little perspective from the community as one who's out there at swim meets and community events where I know there's a set of families that are maybe asking us some questions, really want to feel engaged with the district. So I hope to bring a fresh voice, something that will resonate with voters and also add to the excellence of our system. I would also like to give a greeting to families in Spanish, as that would be something I would hope to bring to our board, an ability to communicate with our percentage of population, 45% Latino population. So if you'll give me a moment. Gracias a los padres que están involucrados. Los que hablan español, bienvenidos. Gracias por tienen su parte en este distrito y gracias por su voto. Y espero que se aprendan algo hoy noche porque tenemos el futuro es nuestro. Gracias.
Mr. Covey?
My name's Bob Covey. I don't speak Spanish. I speak West Texas, and that's all I know. I'm sorry. My wife and I have been married 44 years this last August, and she is a Spring Branch product.
When we decided to move back to Houston or move into Houston in 1975, I had already been to Cy-Fair when I was studying education at Texas State, which was at that time Southwest Texas. And we had come to this district because it was one of two that was actually practicing the open concept. So we came here and watched what the education was going on in the school district. When I had the chance to move to Houston with my wife, we talked about where we wanted to live, and it was obviously that I wanted to live here in Cy-Fair, where I felt like the education was cutting edge and that it was moving forward probably as faster than any other district in the state. We have 3 sons, and we have a daughter-in-law. All 4 of those are graduates of Cy-Fair School District. I have 5 grandchildren, 4 of which are enrolled now, and they are teaching in the district. I have a daughter-in-law that teaches in Waller because she cannot teach in the district since I'm on the board. And I have a daughter-in-law that's staying at home, and she wants to teach, and as soon as I get off the board, she'd love to come teach in Cy-Fair. But I will tell you that I feel like it takes having a calling to be on this board and to serve this district, because it's not just something you do for fun. It's a calling, it's a passion for education. I have that passion. I want to continue working for this district. I want to work for the teachers. I want to work for the students, the support staff, and the administration. I appreciate you allowing me to talk, and I appreciate you supporting me. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, are you all ready to begin? So one thing for tonight that's not in my job description is to give updates to the Astros game. So we are currently sitting, the good guys, with 4, and the bad guys at 3. It's the bottom of the 8th. There's 1 out. All right? I'll keep you posted. All right, so this first candidate is this first question is for all candidates. We'll start with Dr. Ogletree. I just bought a new home in Cypher ISD School District. One thing that almost stopped me from doing that was the school tax rate. It is larger than a lot of the other school districts in the area. What is your position on the current tax rate, and do you think there is anything that can be done to give homeowners like myself a much-needed tax break?
Our present tax rate, in fact, we lowered the tax rate a few years ago. Our tax rate is lower than most of our surrounding school districts. And so what each individual citizen will pay is based upon the appraisal of their own home. What we've tried to do as best we can as a board is to consider the property taxes of our residents. And any time that we can reduce our tax rate, we have done it. And because we're very conscious of that. And also, we have the lowest administrative cost of any school district in the state of Texas our size. And so we are very much aware of what our citizens pay, and we do our best to keep our tax rate low.
Mr. Ryan?
Thank you, and I think John did a great job answering that as far as if you compare our tax rate to our surrounding districts. But one thing that's critically important in our district that a lot of districts do not have and that we have is the optional homestead exemption. In the 17 years I've been on the board, every year that comes up for a vote, and so far, in the 17 years I've served, every year I've voted as a yes for that optional homestead exemption, because I'm also a homeowner. That's an advantage to me, just like it's an advantage to all of you. But earlier I talked about perception and reality, and this question kind of fits that mold completely, because what I would tell that person to do is, hey, go protest your tax rate. Go every year, protest your tax bill. Go in there and have your value lowered. Our rate stays the same. Your value is what's going up. So that's what I would tell our homeowners is take the initiative and protest your tax bill. Thank you.
Dr. Blossingame?
Thank you. I definitely support the homestead exemption. I think that is a fair break for homeowners. And of the $1.44 tax rate we pay, $1.04 of that is our day-to-day operations, the other 40 is debt service. So I feel like as we slow down from a fast growth district to a moderate growth district and we look at our facilities into the future, that could be an area that may be able to bring some relief to taxpayers. As we look at the price we pay for our facilities and comparing to construction in other areas like HCC downtown, make sure that we really are getting the best bang for our buck there, and maybe that could be a way to alleviate some burden on our taxpayers.
Mr. Covey?
Well, I think everyone has kind of addressed this, and I totally agree, because I think there is a confusion out there that the appraisal is our responsibility on the school district, and it is not. However, on the other side of that, and I'm 70 years old, it's nice to be able to see that your house maintains the value that you feel that it's worth. And on top of that, sometimes there's an increase, which here lately there has been an increase. But that's a reflection of the education that we offer our students, because the attraction to the school district is that our education is stellar and it brings people in. That keeps our value in our households on the top, and that's what I'm very proud of, is that this district does their best job in educating, which brings people in, which keeps the value of our homes high. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question is for all candidates. We'll begin with Mr. Ryan. What are your plans that our students will be treated fairly and unbiasedly by school administrators when they receive a tip online? How can you assure a parent that an investigation and proper medical test is not biased, rigged, and preferences for certain students is given without following proper procedures? In other words, punishment is selective for certain students with or without facts and evidence.
Okay, now run that by again, because that was deep.
It was meaty. There's
It
a
was
lot to
meaty.
it.
It was meaty.
It's 4-4, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
What are your plans that our students will be treated fairly and unbiasedly by school administrators when they receive a tip online? How can you assure a parent that an investigation and proper medical test is not biased, rigged, and preferences for certain students is given without following proper procedures? In other words, punishment is selective for certain students with and or without facts and evidence.
Okay. I will do my best to answer that, and I will tell you that in CFISD, we follow the student code of conduct. We have our parents and our students sign the student code of conduct, and that we also follow the law. So as far as a student being treated unfairly, I haven't seen, my 17 years, I haven't seen that take place as far as discipline of a student. Now, I can tell you what would happen if that were to take place is that as from a board's perspective, we don't delve down into the day-to-day operations of the district. And so if that were to come to me, I would pass that on, or to any board member, I would hope that they would pass that on to Dr. Henry and say, this is what we heard is taking place. Could you check into that, please? That's his role as the superintendent, not my role as the board member to get involved in the individual discipline of a student.
Dr. Blossingame?
As our role in governance is to oversee policy and procedure, we definitely would want to be a fair system for all students. This is an area that I could definitely bring some insight and information to the board, having served as a school administrator overseeing discipline for 20-plus years. We do have an obligation to follow due process for students. We do have an obligation to make sure that we've ensured proper testing and proper procedures, and that normally comes down to a training issue. Administrators have many things on their mind, student achievement being first, but operating in a fair way for our students is definitely something that is an obligation. And so I would ask if a question's raised to administration, what training, where is our policy and procedure have any space for bias, and what does our data look like? Are we over-disciplining certain echelons or certain groups in our system? And I think we might find that the data says we are. And so I would say that's open for questions, because as we diversify as a district, we're going to need to make sure we're making sure every student is successful in our district. And so if we are not if it's not perceived that we are fair and thorough in our discipline procedures, then that's worthy of discussion.
Mr. Covey?
Well, I have to agree with Don in that we don't go over that line of governance. That is not our position. And yet, we do know the policies and procedures, and I can't repeat each and every one to you, but I do have a list of them that I keep in my desk, and I've got a list of them that I keep at my office, so that if I get a call from a parent that is concerned about something, I can kind of review exactly what our policies and procedures are. But I also have a lot of faith in our administration, and they practice accountability. They practice it with their principals, with their assistant principals, and they in turn practice it with their teachers. Are there some things that happen that we didn't know about? When it comes to light, then we have a grievance that we go through, and that's where it is addressed. So if that were to happen, then we have the set policies and procedures to be able to handle it and handle it well.
Dr. Ogletree?
In a district as large as ours, over 116,000 students, there is always the possibility that there is going to be someone who feels that they have been treated unfairly. As parents will feel that way. And I'll tell you personally, I have 7 grandchildren in this district. And when I listen to some of the things that they experience as students, and they come and talk about a complainant too, I understand from 2 perspectives. From the administrative perspective, dealing with all the kids, as well as from a grandparent perspective. I believe our district is fair. I believe our administration does its best to make sure, as our theme is, opportunity for all. And any parent that feels like there is a grievance, they can handle that at the school on a local basis, at the school, at the campus. They can come before the board and in our board meetings. And as board members, we do sit and hear the claims and grievances that come before us, that after going through the process, we sit and listen to those. And for the most part, as Don has said, I believe our administrators do a great job in trying to make sure that things are fair, that there is a process, that parents' complaints and students' complaints are heard. And when those issues come before the board, we listen and we do our best to make a decision. And so I believe that we do our best, but as I said, in a district as large as we have, inevitably you will have a complaint or someone that feels like they haven't been treated fairly. But I believe our heart and our desire is to be fair to every parent, every student.
Thank you. Our next question. Please define the board role in your opinion. Contrast that role and responsibilities with the administration's role. Dr. Blossingame?
The board's role is governance. Ultimately, the board is the one accountable if students in our district are not achieving. The state has put much of that responsibility onto superintendents because they're the only ones they can really get teeth onto because we're elected officials as school board members. But ultimately, the board does hold accountability for making sure all students have opportunity in the system. Budget, policy, and hiring the superintendent and setting goals for the district are what board members are responsible for. And then the responsibility of administration is to execute the day-to-day operations of the system, to ensure that the system is holding high standards for all students, to investigate any students who are failing to thrive and respond and put programming in place in order to address that. Administration, based on the budgets and the decisions made at the salary level by the board, can then hire the very best staff to execute for students. and make sure that we are creating a system with opportunity for all.
Mr. Covey?
Well, I'll agree that the policy and procedures are one of the things that the board is in charge of, and that falls above that governance line. Also, setting the goals for the district is something that the board works with the administration. And then the budgets, of course, as has been mentioned, and of course, the hiring and firing of a superintendent, or maybe not firing, we'll just say retiring of a superintendent. But I feel like that probably what we see is the administration takes it from there, and they do the day-to-day, and they work with their principals and their associates, and they're the ones that make sure that the students are meeting the goals that the board sets. And it's one of those things that we work together as a team of 8. And that's very important to know that it is a team of 8. It's not the 7 against the superintendent. It's a team working together, and that is the team of 8, and that's how we work with the governance.
Dr. Ogletree?
Our role as board members is governance, and we approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, set policy, and we also set, which is I think the most important role, is set the academic goals along with our superintendent for the district. And it is said at every board meeting by the president of the board, our role is not the day-to-day operations of the district, and it's incumbent upon board members not to cross that line. We work, as Bob said, as a team of 8, and at board meetings, we receive reports, we ask questions, we make suggestions to our administration, and it's a good, I think it's a good working relationship, Dr. Henry with Dr. Henry and his administrative team, and that's where we should stay. And the good thing is there is accountability, but there is teamwork and harmony with the administration and our board.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. I mean, they've all defined the role of the board member excellent. You guys did a great job. But one of the things I do want to point out is that one of the roles of the board member is dealing with the budget. And in our district, you're talking about over a $900 million budget. And so when you have community leaders, business leaders that aren't educators, that are used to dealing with budgets, that are outside of the educational world and into the real world, then they have experience in that area. Actually, I was talking to my wife, Julie, and she said, she said, at HP, she said, no one on our board has a technology background. That's not what we want on our board. We have all the technology we need in-house. And a lot of times I feel like in school districts, we have the educators in-house that can do the job. We really do. We have administrators in place that's their job as administrators. Our role is completely separate from that as a board member, but to be a team member with our superintendent in that area. He completes our team of 8. And so I would agree with everyone else's definition, but I would like to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Mr. Covey. What is Cypher ISD doing to prevent children from going hungry? There are too many kids without meals at home, and school shouldn't be a place where they can't eat. What is the percentage of children without food at Cypher ISD?
I don't know exact percentage, but I do know that we have a number of programs working with the federal government that feeds a lot of our kids that are either homeless and or fall into that economically disadvantaged area. I'll also say, and it's kudos to our food organization, in that they are right now feeding, I believe it's 3 meals a day due to the flood. And that's something that was over and above what we do in the school district. And I will tell you, just on the other side of that, one of the things that's been a concern, and I've gone to Washington, D.C. and talked to them about that, and that is these kids that are on the free and reduced lunch. An example was given to me by a principal that sometimes everybody gets a piece of fruit, and sometimes there's a whole apple or a whole banana or a whole orange that's left. and it's thrown in the trash because due to the federal law, that cannot go to another student. And the principal told me that she would get in trouble if she just put that out there for anybody to take it. So she just kind of leaves stuff on the table. If they want to grab it and take it with them, then she's not held accountable for what's doing with that federal monies for that food. And I find that that's atrocious that our federal government does not utilize something like that that will help feed hungry kids.
Dr. Ogletree.
I can't imagine a single student going hungry in our schools if it is known by any teacher or administrator. That's one thing that we can all applaud our district for, is making sure that we are working with every program that is possible to make sure that the nutritional needs of our students are met. In fact, in our summer programs, our kids eat free. They don't have to worry about a single meal in our programs. So I don't know who submitted that question, but I can't imagine that happening in Cypher ISD.
Mr. Ryan.
I'll echo what John said. You know, when we have a community that is increasing as far as the number of economically disadvantaged students, and statistically, studies show that if a child is in school and is hungry, that child's not going to perform as well. One of the great things about CFISD, when they ask what is the percentage of kids that go hungry in Cypher ISD, I would say it's 0. Our district does a great job of feeding our children, especially those that are on free and reduced lunch. Our food service department operates in the black, which is extremely rare in a lot of districts. They do a great job. And so, you know, we have a district that is compassionate for our children, and we also have a district that's committed to meeting the needs of every child, not just some children, but every child. So I don't see a child in our district going hungry at all. And oftentimes, as John mentioned in the summer programs, for a lot of our children, the meals they get at school, those are the only meals they get for the day. And so to me, that says that's a huge act of compassion on behalf of CFISD to feed those children. Thank you.
Dr. Blassingame.
Thank you. With a 50% free and reduced lunch population, there are some students who will be experiencing food insecurity. We are able to take care of them often on those school days because we do have a great nutrition services, and as Dr. Ogletree alluded to, when relationships with staff is there, where students feel that they can trust and speak to their teachers and their leaders in their schools, then they will express when they're hungry. But I know I was out being a bus buddy at Fraser Elementary. That's kind of a food desert. I drive down Gessner by Tanner. I would call that another food desert. So I would like us to see partnering with great organizations that are local, like Sci-Hope, or possibly with the food bank, where students are able to have an option of taking home a bag of groceries on the weekend. I've seen it done in schools across the city, lined up. They just take a little bag on their way home, and that way they are able to address nutritional needs on the weekend as well. So I think there's areas we could explore when students express that they're hungry to us.
All right. Our next question. Cypher ISD has made a school day longer for kids and made the calendar year shorter. How is this benefiting the district or overall the students? Dr. Ogletree?
The new guidelines that have been set by the state is the student hours and not days. And the way our schedule is set is to make sure that every student gets the hours needed for a proper education. And I think each campus does a very good job of scheduling and making sure that the educational process is flowing and that kids are maximizing their academic pursuits as well as the non-academic pursuits that are very much necessary in our school system, whether it's band or athletics or choir, those things. I think we do a very good job in that to present a well-rounded student and a well-rounded education.
Mr. Ryan?
Repeat that question, please, Jason.
Sure. Cypher ISD has made a school day longer for kids and made the calendar year shorter. How is this benefiting the district or overall the students?
And John hit on this. It is now it's down to where it's so many minutes per day that we're accountable for. In fact, with the hurricane, we were able to get relief from so many minutes per day. And a lot of that is what comes down to us from the state that says, hey, this is what you're going to have to do. I remember we had a while back, the travel industry was pushing for our start dates and to say this is when you have to start school. But I would say even when you have students that are struggling, the longer that you can have them on your campus and keep them in your classroom, the greater success that you're going to have for them, the greater amount of time that you're going to have to work with them and get them up to standards if they are struggling. So I think a longer day does benefit our students, especially at the elementary level, because we found that when you can catch something early, in Cypher ISD, if we have them early and we catch it early, then they will succeed. There's no doubt about that. So if we can have them for a longer amount of time, and even, and I know my time's running out, but even the partnerships that we have with some of our after-school programs where we're able to implement instruction in those programs, that's a huge benefit to our students.
Thank you. Dr. Blossingame?
Effective school correlates will tell you that time on task is one of the most critical and salient factors in student achievement. I know that intuitively as a researcher, but as a teacher and as a principal, that's definitely part of what we look for, opportunities to have longer with our students. The argument about days versus amount of time in a day versus length of the calendar, I would propose that realistically, for the students who need it most, more time on task given in a day and given in a calendar year are critical. For example, the very promising camp at spring break for the students who are homeless, that's an example of taking time and using it productively for students. It might be beneficial to explore out of school and after school summer opportunities to make sure that we extend the time on task for students so that they have more opportunity to learn, especially where we see that our achievement gap is. But definitely time on task is critical. I do think that the state proposed an interesting option because the tourism industry was very forceful at the state level in deciding how our school start would happen. And so the District of Innovation was offered as a tool for districts. I'm not sure it's super attractive. I respect the board's decision not to go there yet because I think we're quibbling over just details versus the essence, which is some students need more time on task so that we won't experience a summer dip, which is also well documented. So I would say time on task, every way we can get it is great.
Okay. Mr. Kobe?
Repeat the question one more time.
Absolutely. CF ISD
Okay.
has made a school day longer for kids and made the calendar year shorter. How is this benefiting the district or overall the students?
Well, we've already discussed the minutes and the seats by everybody, and that's true. However, I believe, if I remember correctly, Cyfair School District had a longer school year than most districts. So when we cut back the days, we're actually coming back to what the normal school districts are doing. So we really haven't cut out what is required of us. In fact, well, I think we're still over and above that. And I have to agree with everybody, and that is, it's obvious when they stay on task, they learn a lot. And we've learned that because we've implemented our Camp Summit in the summer, which is kindergarten, first and second. And they miss the summer slide because they're bringing their reading up to a level, and it's obvious and it is proven that if they're reading on level by third grade, they're going to be that much more successful when they graduate. So I think that the school board and the administration addresses a lot of these problems, and we have proven history that it is working.
All right, thank you. Just a general reminder, if you can, yes, sir.
I was just gonna, if you could give us a quick score update, it's been a while, but just,
You're not gonna like it.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's
The
why.
Yankees, 6-4. Yep.
No, I don't like that.
There was a double judge a little while ago. I didn't want to
okay.
interrupt.
No,
It was-
we're good, we're good.
very
Thank you
awkward.
for sharing.
Yep.
You can go
Now,
home
for general reminder, if y'all can do what you can to stick to the response of the minute so that we can keep moving along. Next question. Katy ISD is ranked number 1 in Houston. There's no source cited here. What measures are needed as a whole to bring Cyfair ISD to number 1? We'll start with Mr. Ryan.
Well, I would say, and really, and we've kind of flip-flopped with Katie in the past as far as who's number 1, and I commend Katie. I think Katie does a great job. I think the goal for Cyfair ISD is to truly embrace the opportunity for all. Last night when I met with TSTA, NEA, and got to visit with a lot of the educators in the room, we talked about that. We talked about teacher support in the classroom and what we can do as a board member. And by the way, I appreciate them endorsing me and supporting me. That means a lot. But I do believe that we can't settle on where we are. We have to continue to move forward and continue to believe that every student in our district deserves the same opportunity. That's why I am adamant about that each one of our classes, whether it be in the far west side of the district, the far east side of the district, that every student in our district has the same opportunity in every building, in every classroom, and that we have multiple opportunities for all of our children. And the last thing I want to add, and I know we're running out of time, but Natalie touched on it earlier, we do have a partnership with Sci-Hope where they do provide backpacks for our hungry kids on the weekend. So I just want to let her know that that is something that we are currently doing in the district. So, thank you.
Dr. Blasingame?
Number 1, to me, there's many factors that'll go into how families rate schools and where they choose where they're going to live. But I think one thing Katie has right now is if you look at the average price of the home, based on community impact newspaper data, it's higher. And we are facing what Katie will ultimately face, which is that we're a shifting demographic in our community. And so I've worked in systems where we have faced that, and some systems have done it well, and some systems have not done it well, and that has made has set a path for the future. And so that's why I offer my service to this board, is to be able to offer a little perspective from having worked in Title I schools for 25 years to see how it is that you can bring instructional excellence for every student. To Dawn's point about high quality and high expectations in every single classroom, that is very critical. Every student needs to be held to high expectations, every teacher supported. That might need to be differentiated in order to address the place where the student is going to school. Teachers may need additional supports. It might be necessary that other staff is provided, and there's more tools to make sure that the teacher in the classroom who's differentiating for 4 or 5 or 6 levels also has backup from a reading specialist or another instructional specialist. That also goes to families. I think as our system diversifies, just like when you go to Mod Pizza, you go down, you pick exactly what you want, and in 5 minutes you have it your way. I think the community has shifted, and maybe the same high quality exists in every classroom. However, some choice exists for families within the system. We manage choice. Rather than fighting against the concept of choice, I think it's here. What we start to do is create choice within our system. We look at underutilized buildings, or we look at things where we hear from the community about what they're interested in. Example, dual language programs, maybe some other CTE areas, maybe a smaller school within a school program. We offer choice within the system, and we also look where students are failing to thrive, and we offer them something different until they are successful. We close the achievement gap, and then we become the #1 district.
Thank you. Mr. Kobe?
Well, in the first place, statistics are statistics. And if you took statistics, you know that you can skew that any way that you possibly want to do it. Now, over the last 5 or 6 years, the Education Resource Group has put us in first, second, or third place in all of the state, in all of the districts in the state. And Katy wasn't there. Now, I'm going to shout out about Katy because I think they have an excellent school district. And because I truly believe that public education needs to support each other, then choosing who is best in the state is not really a great idea. I think it's something that we work together as public schools, because we have vouchers that are facing us, and vouchers are not a friend of public school education. So I disagree with that statistic, but I don't think the statistic needs to be used nor to defame anything else that Cy-Fair is doing. We're moving forward as our district needs to move forward. We're always looking for cutting edge, and I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree.
Yes, we applaud Katie and its success academically, but in Cy-Fair, we understand that they don't have the challenges that we have, but we're not afraid of the challenges. One thing we can applaud is that every school in our district met the state standards, and you won't find that for the other large districts that compare to us. One thing that Cy-Fair does, it does a good job of identifying the students who are having academic achievement problems, and a plan, a strategy is gotten together at each campus for those students. I was at one of our schools today, and they have a period where they have targeted students. This is at Hamilton Middle School, who are having those issues, and they target that. Schools who are doing that, as well as the other programs we have like Camp Summit and having schools a part of the PBIS program, we are going to close the achievement gap, and we, because our motto is opportunity for all, we're going to do it.
Thank you. All right, next question. Substitutes have not had a pay increase in over 7 years. Teachers have had at least 4 pay raises in the same time. Do you think we should compete with Katy ISD, Tomball, etc. in regards to substitute pay like Cy-Fair ISD does with teacher pay? Dr. Blossingame?
We count on our substitutes to have quality individuals. My child had an emergency with her teacher our first week of school, and that person held the class together, made sure the curriculum continued, and she felt really great about her learning in world cultures. And so I think they're a critical piece, and as having led a school, knowing that when I could count on the reliable subs who came in, knew our kids, knew how to speak to our kids, knew how to teach our kids, knew how to follow the teacher's lesson plan, that's critical. I would say that we also have to keep our teaching core first when we're looking at our funds, but I would definitely want to compare our daily rate for substitutes with other systems. I would look at that for those who have degrees and those who don't, and I would say that we need to be fair in how we compensate them. And maybe we also could look at their record of service. If we have assigned and permanent substitutes that stay longer, or ones who do multiple days in our system in a year that are really truly counted on by a school, that may also be a way that we could look at, because teachers vote with their substitute calls. They call the people they can count on to run their classroom. So people who are being requested by teachers should have an opportunity to be compensated differently.
Mr. Covey?
I believe that we've already begun a study on looking at substitute teachers and the comparison in the pay from the districts that not only surround us but across the state of Texas. I also know that we have put into effect that we want to try to keep, as Dr. Blassingame said, we want to keep our teachers in the classroom. So we are offering a bonus to them based on 100% attendance, and I think that that's proven to save the district some money, and that would be something I think we could look at that might bolster up the substitutes that we do use. And I will say that we do have the option for those that are long-term subs. We have those that have degrees and those that have associate degrees. They are paid on a different scale than just bringing someone in that has no degree at all.
Dr. Ogletree?
I would be in favor of anything that would help us close the achievement gap and keep our academic achievement on our scale of our goals. And that includes getting a better quality substitute teacher.
Mr. Ryan?
Okay, so listen, I was a sub for a day. and I didn't get paid, but as a board member, I wanted to see what it was like in the classroom. I felt like, hey, if I'm gonna be making decisions, I wanna know what it's like in the classroom. And I didn't get paid, and I probably shouldn't have been paid for the effort that I put in, because it was not good. But on the subject of substitute teachers, I do like what, and Bob touched on this, what we're doing about incentivizing our teachers to stay in the classroom and to not take those mental health days necessarily, and to get into the pool for the bonus at the end of the year. I think that's strong. But folks, you got to remember, it's easy, because it's election time, for me to sit up here and go, yes, 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 we should pay our subs more. There's only so much money that's in the pot in CFISD, and I don't know how to tell you that we have the smallest pot in the area. And so I think it's critical that the money that we do have, that we continue to be efficient and effective with that money. And if we can move something around, and like Bob said, as we do that study and find the money to increase that, yes. But just to increase the pay to a substitute, if it could have a negative impact in another area that has a higher impact on student achievement, then no, I would not be in favor of that. I'm in favor of high student achievement and putting the money where we get the most impact for our students. Is that another score update? Or is it over?
It's over.
Okay, thank you.
It's 4-6.
I know, it's appreciated.
Yep.
Sad.
All right, next questions for everyone. What is your personal experience volunteering in Cypher ISD schools? Please specify experiences for elementary, middle, and high schools. Mr. Covey.
Oh, okay. I only have a minute? Okay. Because my wife was a teacher in the district for 30 years, I got to start out being the homeroom dad. I don't think we had homerooms, but anyway. So I had to bring the cookies, and I had to chaperone trips, which then parlayed me into being a mentor while my kids were in middle school. Didn't mentor my own kids, and I thought that was a wise choice on my part. And then I got into high school, and I got to work as president of the All Athletic Booster Club and the Choral Booster Club in Cypher High School. It was an odd combination, but it worked real well, and I was very proud of that. Since that time, I've served on a 2001 bond and the 2004 bond. Since that time, I have been a reader at Sheridan Elementary for the past 6 years, and at Lampkin Elementary. I've also read at Metcalf and at Keith. I also serve on the Gulf Coast Area Association of the School Boards. I'm on a board of directors. So I'm doing quite a bit of volunteering. As my wife says, if I could just get paid for the volunteering, we would really be in good shape. But that's okay, because that's my passion. I love it. I love being part of this district. I think it's important that we're involved in this district, because as trustees, we need to know what's going on in the schools. And that's one of the things I'm proud about this board about. Now, I've kept mine to a minute every time, so I'm going to expound on this. I'm very proud of this board, this specific board, because we go out and we split up this district, and each one of us visits 14, 16 schools during the school year. And we make a tour, and we get to see what's going on in the classroom. I love going into the classroom, kneeling down, listening to those kids talk about what they're doing, watching a teacher, watching how they're teaching their class, and that I don't ever feel like I'm an intrusion. But I will tell you right now that being able to do that and our district allowing us to go in has been immensely important to me making decisions for this board and for this district.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree.
I want to echo Bob. When he was president of the board, he initiated our visits into the schools each year. And as he said, we visit 14 to 16 schools. And it is a very, very eye-opening. It helps us to attach our decisions in a board meeting with what is actually happening in the schools, and to visit classrooms, to talk with principals, counselors, and coaches. It is I can't express the value of that. In addition to our board meetings, which thank God, when I first started, our board meetings would last till midnight. And we have 2 a month. We also attend luncheons, banquets, and other events in our district.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Wow, a minute. I'd like to echo what John said. Bob, and I think Lida was part of that too, started us with our school visits. And then it was really official, but you know what? Most of us were doing stuff around the community before that anyway. My favorite thing to do is to read to an elementary school classroom dressed as Dr. Seuss and create mass chaos and then leave the campus. So at the elementary level, that is awesome. We get to do that every year, and that's actually, I see the group from TSTA, that, they're the ones that say, hey, go on out there, and that is so much fun. But then you look at mentoring. I've also enjoyed mentoring because it's more of a one-on-one contact, and it's something where you truly are able to impact one student for that time in his life. And I think that, to me, that's the greatest volunteer work you can do is to be a mentor and have a positive impact on a student who oftentimes may not have a male influence in his life, might be from a single-parent home. But I've done all the stuff as a board member. I've volunteered at every level, done bus buddies, all that. It's been 17 years of volunteering, and it feels like it's been less than 17 days. I've loved it, so thank you.
Dr. Blessingame?
I have been honored with our church to support Hair Grove Elementary for several years as a global volunteer, but also just as a church member. That's been a very productive and precious partnership where we've supported with field days, supported with parent events. The men of the church do bikes for the students, and we donate at Christmas and adopt families and support that school in many ways. And I think it's an outperformer because there's an amazing staff, an amazing principal, but also that the partnership is valuable. At Aragon Middle School, I am a VIPS program participant. I support the Wildcat Den. I support teacher appreciation. We have opportunities to support the mentoring program, serving teachers hot dogs who are willing to mentor their students. That's my experience in our schools here. As a bus buddy also, as a global volunteer, opportunity to help kids get on the bus safely, but really to get a glimpse into their area, their school. But I would also conjecture that experience in schools. I've been honored to be a Texas Lifetime PTA member, and I've also been honored by the Parents of Public Schools as a Guiding Star recognized with that award because I bring my heart to the work and to the schools. And so as a parent, I've led PTA. I've been an executive chair member. I've led teacher appreciation talent show, brought back a spelling bee to a school. And so I definitely know what it's like to volunteer in schools. I'm definitely committed. I'm also a community volunteer of Girl Scouts in our area. It's not directly a school-related activity, even though it is, but I serve there and also teach Sunday school. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next question is again for all candidates. According to the Cypher-ISD State of the District 2017-2018, Cypher-ISD has one of the lowest administrative cost ratios in the state, 3.73%, and administrative expenditures account for only 1.8% of the operating budget. As a trustee, what will you do to maintain this level of fiscal responsibility while ensuring funds are focused on students and classrooms? Dr. Ogletree.
We will, as a board member, I am happy to say that each year when we vote on the budget, we consider all these factors, and I will continue to do that and be proud that we have such a fine school system with low administrative costs.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
We're going to continue to do more with less because that's what we do, but then we also have to look outside of the tax dollars for other resources. And so I want to give a quick shout out to Leslie Francis and her group, because this is where we have truly excelled. We have 40 faith-based partners that have adopted schools. And when I say adopted schools, folks, they're in our schools. I was talking to a couple of members of First Baptist Church, and Bridgeland had orientation there. They had their drill team practice in their sanctuary. So these are true partnerships that we have, and then we have our business partners. And those business partners have generated $14 million in resources to our district. So when you say, what are we doing? We're going outside of the norm in Cypher ISD. And I did want to bring up Leslie Francis, because it hasn't always been that way. Yeah, we had some great partners in education prior, but what Leslie has done in bringing in business partners and bringing in faith-based partners that have adopted schools, that have embraced the schools. That's why you saw with the hurricane with Moore Elementary, and when they moved over to Matsky, and you saw that it was on every news report, when you saw the teachers, the community rally around supplies for those teachers. That's what we do in Cypher ISD. That's who we are. And stuff like that is just, it's an awesome reflection of our community. So we will always have the lowest administrative cost, and we'll always do more with less, because that's what we do. That's how good we are.
Thank you. Dr. Blossingame.
Yeah, I commend the board for the fiscal practices, and I definitely commend the administration. I think there's such a high-quality staff and administration in the system. They get a lot done with a little crowd, because that is a very low administrative cost, and so clearly I would support the fact that that is lean and stays that way, and as long as we're meeting the needs of students. And I would challenge the fact that we need to figure out where in our system we shift resources to close the achievement gap. I'm pretty confident that's not with adding administrative cost. Thank you.
Mr. Covey.
Well, I just echo, I'm very proud of how low the administrative cost is, but I'm also extremely proud of how amazingly functional they are as a group and what they do to make everything better for our students. And it's opportunity for all, and we believe in that, and that's something that comes down from the top and trickles all the way down. I'll also commend our Chamber of Commerce, which has been an awesome partner in bringing businesses to us and supporting this district. We don't have a metropolitan area, and as Leslie Martone and Dr. Henry have said, they jockey between each other as to who's mayor of Cy-Fair. So it's just something that it's such a great working relationship. Can it improve? Always, we can improve. Do we attract businesses because of the education? Yes, and the Chamber will tell you that. And that's what makes us even more important as an educational system, is because we are bringing businesses into this district, and we're keeping it actually in a very positive manner.
Thank you. How do you propose addressing the inequities in campuses across the district that have developed with new construction, i.e. campus equipment, supplies, etc.? They don't match what is available at these new campuses. Mr. Ryan?
Well, I think we are addressing that. When we talk about opportunity for all, and I'll give you an example. My kids attended Adam Elementary, and then if you looked at some of the newer schools, if you went out and looked at Farney, at Sampson, at some of those, it was like, whoa, hey, what's up with this? And so when you have a phase-in program with the bond money, that between Stewart, Snow, and Roy Sprague, that they work together to where our campuses are on a schedule as far as the updates that they're getting. I had a school visit today to Arnold Middle School, and where I actually went, so you can imagine how that school looks. And walking through there, I could see the need for carpet replacement in areas where they're going to be doing some things as far as HVAC systems. So our district has a schedule for replacing and repairing our older facilities and bringing them up to speed with the newer facilities. It's just a matter of, like everything in life in your house, stuff wears out, and then you recycle and you replace. So we do have a set schedule for that. It may not feel like it at the time when my kids were at Cy-Fair High School, and you'd walk through with a hard hat, but it was being done. we take care of it when it needs to be taken care of.
Thank you. Dr. Blossingame?
The really most important aspect of a school is the staff in it and the way they treat the students and the supplies they have to do their job well. So I do think that facilities, older facilities will always be what they are compared to new ones, but I don't think that has to be the greatest factor in drawing staff to work there or serving students in that building. I do feel like assessing those kinds of issues as far as material supplies, furniture, that will keep the learning environment fresh, or should be done on a schedule. And I will say, when I was a bus buddy out at Fraser, I was struck by the fact that that facility, although exactly like Lowry Elementary in my neighborhood, didn't look quite as fresh and wonderful. And so I was interested to see where on the schedule that replacement and replenishment comes, because I do feel like every student does deserve a great place in which to learn, but I will say it's most about the staff in that building.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Covey?
I agree about the staff. I think that's the X factor that works there. But I also say that our board and our district has a long-range plan, and that plan is laid out as to who we're going to work with. And whenever we have chances to improve on that, or we have situations that we have to address, then we do that. But I'll also tell you, if you look at how we spend our bond money, you will see that sometimes, and for an example, I remember it was, I think we just finished the 2007 bond, using up all that money. So it's not something, the minute we pass a bond, we go out and spend everything. That's not what we do. We take our time, we make sure we're handling that money correctly, and I think that, and I'm like Don. My youngest son was in Cypress-Fairbanks High School. They used to call it Beirut High. And he was there when they took the top off, and the kids were walking down the main hallway without a roof. And we thought this is going to be very detrimental to our students, but in fact, they bought into it. They were very proud that we were redoing the first high school. It was an awesome event, and now that was, 14, 15 years ago? We have to do some more things later on. So it's just the evolution process, and I think we address that on a regular basis.
Dr. Ogletree?
One thing you will not find in the future of Cypress-Fairbanks ISD is a school that's been closed because of age and being outdated. Each one of our bond elections not only include the building and construction of new campuses, but also the repair and remodeling of our existing campuses. Our last board meeting, in fact, we voted to approve $9 million on two schools, two existing schools that are not new schools, to remodel them and update them and add, I think Roy Spriggs said that will add at least 25 years additional life to those schools. That is Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. We update the old, we remodel, we renew it, and we make good use of our taxpayers' money.
Thank you. Next question. This is again for all candidates. We'll begin with you, Dr. Blossingame. What is your proposal to fix the inequity in the application of district contribution related to insurance when both employees are currently employed by Cypress-Fairbanks ISD? Under the current system, if you pool rates, you lose the contribution to offset the cost of employee and family if both employees work in Cypress-Fairbanks ISD.
Definitely, we pride ourselves on being in a system where we're part of the family. We grew up here. We choose to work here together. We lament the fact that we can't all work in the system because we have a trustee and the family. So I would say that this is something to be studied for actual costs, because clearly for that the perception would be that the costs, if separated, your costs are different, than together your costs should not be different. So I would say that's an issue of looking at the actual costs there to see how we can help families so we are the most attractive employee in the area, because the power in our system is in our teachers and our staff, and them feeling fairly compensated and encouraged to go out each day and serve students.
Mr. Covey?
I don't really have a total answer to that, except that I do know that as a retired teacher, as my wife is, that she's had certainly a situation, and we all know that the legislature finally agreed to pay some money into the teacher retirement system so it didn't go belly up. I will say that back whenever we were self-funded, there was a time when we were building up a huge bill, and I believe it took us 2, maybe even 3 years to pay off under the self-funding, was we thought at the time we were self-funded that was the best way to go. But we opted to go with TRS. TRS, as we all know, and has changed carriers probably 3 times in the past 3 years. So again, it's something that I have to admit I was not aware of this situation, but it is not. It's one more of those things that we will take and we will go to and ask, what can we do, and what is there some kind of a solution that we can help teachers? Because we don't want to hurt teachers, and we know insurance is highly important, but we all know right now how volatile insurance is across the world, the U.S.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree.
As Bob said, because we were trying to be good managers of the taxpayers' money, we went to the TRS system. However, it did bring a hardship to some of our educators. And what we've tried to do as a board, because we can't change TRS, that's a state issue. But what we have tried to do as a board is to continually give our teachers, our employees, raises. And we will continue to do that as best we can to try to offset any hardship that they have with our insurance, with their insurance program.
Mr. Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. John touched on this a little bit, and I can just tell you, because this is my industry, healthcare in the U.S. is a sinking ship, and that's with the P. The district was self-funded. What happened was we had someone that wasn't in network that pretty much bled our accounts dry, and our option at the time was to go to TRS. And so now when we're with TRS, what we're looking at is we've got roughly 16,000 employees, 9,000 of which are on our health insurance, roughly, thereabouts. And so then we've got 7,000 that don't even participate in our health plan. So when we look at employee pay raises, we look at that aspect of it to say, do we just penalize the 7,000 and say, sorry, we're gonna give more to offset or we're not gonna give as much because we want to offset the cost of the insurance for the 9,000. It's a juggling act, and so far to this point, we've said we're going to give a pay raise to everybody across the board, and then what Stuart and the finance department has done a great job of, and they've done it year after year, is to try to balance the costs, especially with single parents that have children, to where their cost is lower on a monthly basis, and it's an affordable plan for them. And so are the plans great? No. Are they affordable? At some of the higher limits they are, but this, like I said, this is a nationwide issue that we have. And so what we're really doing is that we're insuring against an employee having a financial catastrophe, because we are providing that coverage. And so that's the most critical thing of all.
Thank you. Next question. So school funding, high-stakes testing, and accountability ratings are all mandated by our state legislature. Explain your efforts to advocate for public schools with our elected officials. Mr. Covey.
Well, that's a real good question, because we obviously realize that the state funding is inequitable whenever we have adjoining districts that are getting more money per student. And I'm not sure exactly what the total amount is, but we know that that is a problem. And the amazing thing to me is that there was probably 4 plans that were presented to the legislature during the session, and they didn't want to look at any one of the 4. I know that TASB offered one, and it was one that they had basically gone over for the last 7 years, trying to establish something. And they work with Moat, I forgot what the last name is, but he's one of the largest guys that works with the legislature on budgets for education. I will say that I go to Austin probably 4 or 5 times during the session. Then I also go to Washington, D.C. every year for what they call the Advocacy Network, and we get to actually sit down with our legislatures at D.C. because that's also a problem. We have people that are trying to push privatization of education, and they want to deplete the monies that public education is getting. I'm also part of a group that just started, and it's called Go Public Gulf Coast, and it is positively promoting public education. And we're trying to get out to the word that there's a lot of negativity that's been shared from the legislature, state and federal, about public education, and we're trying to get the word out showing exactly what's going on. We do not have the old education that people referred to back in the 50s and the 60s. If you walk into our classrooms, you're not going to see that type of education going on. And I'm really tired of hearing people say that we are standard and we are the basic antiquated part of education, because it's not true. It's just not true.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree.
Each time the legislature is in session, I see my role as an advocate for public education, and I make several trips to Austin. I have testified in front of committees. I have visited our legislators, and I've spoken at rallies. I do any and everything I can to promote public education, and I will continue to do so. We have an election of board members. One thing that still confounds me is the people who love our district and love public education will still vote and put people in office who don't. And that, I can't figure that out.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan.
Thank you. I think first and foremost, one of the great things that we did while I was on the board, and I think Dr. Ogletree and Bob as well, is that we started what's called the CLC, a leadership group in our community that they're waving in the audience right now, and they have set goals to meet with our legislators and our representatives, and I was at a lunch with Bob, with Representative Oliverson came up to us and he said, no one else, no other district does the job that your CLC does in coming to meet with us and share your needs and concerns, and it's consistent. It's all the time. Mr. Jackson, Tom Jackson, Bob, Covey and I, and also Darcy Mangoya, were up in Austin when our teachers were rallying as well. But I will say this, forming that CLC has been critical, and because it develops everything's about relationships when you're working with the people in Austin. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say a thank you to Representative Oliverson, Representative Roberts, and former Representative Harless. They've all done a great job, and I've been blessed that they've also endorsed me in my campaign. So I'm very thankful to them for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Blossingame?
Each year I spend time in Austin appointments, and I go in with the perspective of an educator. I can speak with firsthand experience about the impact of high-stakes accountability and testing on students and the impact that we have from state funding. And I have the opportunity to advocate with people in different areas because I've worked in different areas with relationships, having hosted legislative members in my campus when we were recognized for excellence, and being a member of Raise Your Hand Texas, where we are chosen and selected as outstanding principals to be trained to advocate and taken in exercises to be able to represent our needs. And that's something that I commend the gentleman and this board and the CAC. I think they're brilliant structures, and I would bring a voice to that structure that can speak from firsthand what it takes to make a school excellent, leading it and teaching in it.
Thank you. All right, this next question is specifically for Mr. Ryan and Dr. Blossomgame. But again, after they answer, y'all feel free if you want to add, say comments on your own. How important to you is it that students have opportunities that are supported by district resources to pursue activities such as athletics and fine arts in our Cypher ISD schools? Mr. Ryan?
Vitally important, critically important. Having a well-rounded child means that we have a district that excels in the fine arts, that excels in extracurricular and co-curricular activities. All three of my children were in some form of co-curricular or extracurricular activity, whether it was in band, whether it was, and that was brief because they've got my musical ability, or whether it was in athletics or speech. Having those resources, the fine arts, the drill teams, the dance teams, having those resources available, that creates the whole student. That helps build character in our students. All of those activities, those are character builders. I can look back to even my experience so long ago in Cypher ISD and at Cypher High School, and I can tell you exactly how Rusty Hicks impacted my life. Huge impact. Developed my character as a man, developed the qualities that I have as a husband and a father. So having resources available for those activities is critical. And I would say that I would always support money in that area, definitely.
Dr. Blossomgame?
I think you stole my answer, because definitely well-rounded children. Thank you very much, Don. We definitely, our goal is to have well-rounded students and give them a diverse experiences. And I think that also brings to their academics, because we know that music develops students cognitively and sports develops discipline. And I would say fine arts and sports, and I would also say other co-curricular or extracurricular activities that bring students interest. That may be a diesel club, that may be a chess club, whatever it is that's going to help a student to feel engaged with school and be able to be developed in a well-rounded way. And some of those don't have to cost money. Some of those are ways that we can partner, since we are the hub of the community, especially out here with the mayor, where we can bring other organizations towards the schools to help make sure that each student is involved in something beyond the academics.
Thank you. Let's see. Next question is for Mr. Covey. What would you do to best serve students from disadvantaged backgrounds?
You know, mentoring is a big part of helping students with disadvantaged backgrounds. And I've had the ability, I had the opportunity to be able to work with some students that came from questionable backgrounds and see that they actually progress well when they know that there is someone that's interested in what they're doing. I think it's real important, and I think it's also something that's practiced in a number of our schools, if not all of them, and that is that teachers do act as mentors with some of their students, and especially those that they find that are struggling in whatever area it may be. It's highly important that we look at these students and realize that they are coming from some place that possibly we don't know what it's like. And I can say for myself, I was raised by a cotton farmer and my mom, and although we didn't have lots of money, and I said this before, I think my mom made my shirts out of cottonseed bags or something for a while. I can remember the first shirt she bought, but I never felt like that I was poor. I never felt like I was hungry. So I have a hard time understanding anyone that feels like they're that desperate and hungry. And that's one of the things I like about our Sci-Hope, is that they're actually out there and they're bringing food to these kids, that we're feeding kids breakfast and lunch. I don't have any problem with that. And even during the summertime, we open up our cafeterias to the area for parents and community members that don't have food, and they can come in and eat because of the federal program that Dr. Macias was able to put together for our Camp Summit. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. Any other candidates care to comment on that one?
Yeah, I'd like to, because if you one of the things that Bob and John and I brought back from a national conference was a group called the Watchdogs. And it's primarily in your lower income schools. And the Watchdog stands for Dads of Great Students. And so what these men do, they come into the classrooms, they come into the schools, and they model male leadership. So a lot of those homes and a lot of those communities are missing male role models. But when you have those men in the classroom and on the campus, it's another level of hope. It's another level of reaching, of trying to reach those kids. And it has been, and John will probably say it, and Bob as well, it's been one of the greatest programs that really had the least amount of money that we had to throw at it, because we had dads that wanted to be in our schools, that were saying, oh yeah, we're going to be a part of that. Thank you very much. So I appreciate it.
Dr. Blossingame.
I would also suggest that one of the best things we can do for a student in poverty is to address literacy. Often there's structures in the family that maybe struggles against literacy, and our third grade reading passing rate was 77% last year, and I'm sure if we disaggregate that by low SES, we'll see that that's a skewed number. And so I would say every resource we can put into making sure that every student reads on level, like Camp Summit and others, would be a great way to address the needs of student in poverty.
Dr. Ogletree.
Our motto again is opportunity for all. And as long as every principal, every teacher, every administrator abides by that and sees that as this is the district's culture, this is what we are about, then it doesn't matter what disadvantage the student has or disability that a student has, we will provide the best education for that student.
Thank you. This next question is for you, Dr. Ogletree. Do you view education as a right or a privilege? How will your view on education instruct your policies and action plans as it relates to access to education?
Education is, public education is a right. It is one of the things that has really helped our democracy, that every student can go to school and learn. That's America. That every student can set goals, can learn to read, do math, learn science, achieve. It is a right. And my fear is if we, the direction of some in this state and in this country, promoting private schools and privatization and charter, it will move education to where it's a privilege and not just a right. And whenever it becomes a privilege, that means there will be students who will be disenfranchised.
Thank you. All right, this next question is for Dr. Blossingame. Are you in favor of promoting a Christian-based religion in Cyfair schools? And if so, doesn't that violate the Establishment Clause of the Constitution?
Thank you, I appreciate the question. Public schools are public schools, and they're for all students, students of every faith, students of no faith, of every creed and color, as he put so eloquently in the previous answer. Do I believe that our schools have to, that students have to go into school and divorce themselves of their belief system every day when they head to school? No, I don't believe that's true. The establishment is that there will be no, not favoring or hindering students' faith. I believe that our schools, it's not about teaching faith at school. However, right now, schools are quite hostile to faith, and it's a very nervous environment for everyone involved. Educators and 25 years in schools, 25 years of experience with it, we have no guidance because the law is so murky and policy therefore is murky. And this very school board got challenged this year about this concept of prayer in our meetings. And so what I propose is not about bringing religion to school, but I do believe that our educators and our boards and all public educators across the nation, frankly, deserve clarity to know what the rules are. We need to know how we are allowed to behave. We need to know when students bring us issues like speeches at graduation, or if students want to have a conversation, how to respond so that we don't overreact. Recently in Katy ISD, educators tumbled because they were nervous in responding to Jordan and an assignment that it got out of control. Our board took a long time to make a decision about how to deal with our prayer in our meetings, and when we can repeat the districts and the issues that have come up. So this isn't about promoting one religion. This is about making sure that our schools are not hostile to religion and that students are able to bring their full self to school and educators know how to respond, because we, the governance group, look at policy, and once we have policy clarified, working with TASB and maybe working with our legislators, so we have such great relationships with up here, to address law where that may become necessary, then we just allow teachers to know the rules. That's all. Kids and parents can know the rules. How are you allowed to respond so that we don't all get frozen in those moments and panic and hurt kids in the process? Because it's about the students having, and whatever they bring, we are public school, it's fine. I have worked with every religion, every creed, every kind of student in 25 years and loved them fully and accepted them fully. But I just think that it's great for them to be able to bring their full self to school. And we're in a mess as a culture. We basically need students to learn how to work across lines of difference. We see things dividing and not uniting. I think if children are allowed to do that in safe environments while they're school-aged children, I think they're going to be better off as they leave our schools at 18 and go out into the culture and learn to work with others that are different than themselves.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Yes, and with respect to Dr. Blassingame, and this goes back to my initial comment with perception and reality. And again, with complete respect, Dr. Blassingame has not been in our schools. Her daughter has been in school. I know you just started in Aragon. So I would like to set the record straight on this. Cypher ISD is not hostile to faith in our schools. Never has been. It never will be. Make no mistake about that. All three of my children were able to express their faith in school. The funny thing is, it's said tongue-in-cheek, but it's like that we've put God in a box and said, you can't go here. It's God. God could go. God is in our schools. As long as we have tests in schools, we'll have God in schools. But all of my children are able to express their faith. You'd have groups like FCA. You have I went to See You at the Pole at Spillane. 250 children gathered to pray and worship the God of their choice. Our schools are anything but hostile to faith. I assure you of that. When we have 40 faith-based partners who are in our schools on a daily basis, Cypher ISD is not hostile to faith. It's not about walking around the halls professing your faith, but it is about the ability to pray. All of my children were involved in prayer groups at school. All of my children had classmates that they prayed for at school. So nothing could be further from the truth, and I really want that to be clear to everyone tonight. Cypher ISD is not hostile to faith. Faith is embraced in our community. Faith is a fabric of our community. Faith will continue to be a fabric in our school system.
Go ahead, Mr. Kogan.
No, I just gonna, and I appreciate that, Don, I appreciate that. And actually, Dr. Blassingame, just bringing it up, my wife taught for 30 years, and she never felt threatened because she is a Christian and we practice our Catholic faith. And so there was never, and I asked her that question specifically, did this ever happen? And she said, I never felt it. In the 30 years that I've been in Cypher, I never felt it. And I'll also make the statement that I look at my grandkids today, and I see my grandkids not really seeing color of any type. I see my grandkids are running around with African American kids. They're running around with Hispanic kids. There's not a differentiation. They spend the night with each other. I don't think that in the Cy-Fair, we have that big of a problem. And I think overall in the U.S., I think there's a definite division, and it's pretty obvious that there is. But I think and you have to have been here at the flood, and you have to have seen people that were coming in from all denominations to help. It didn't matter what they believed in or where they came in from all over the country. And it's like someone in our district made the comment, God tends to make us refocus on what's right. And I think that's exactly what happened.
Dr. Ogletree?
I am a Christian, and I happen to pastor some over 50 Cypress-Fairbanks ISD employees. I say a prayer over them at the beginning of every school year, and I speak a blessing upon them and say, you are our missionaries in our public schools. Today, when I visited the Hamilton Middle School, the principal, Kim Sempe, and I talked about our faith openly in the halls, and she expressed that same thing. She said, this is not a job. This is a calling. I'm on mission here. And so I just agree with Don. There is no hostility toward our faith and faith practice in our schools. And I've prayed with principals, and I know our people carry their faith and touch our students based upon their faith practice. And I thank God for that.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Next question, Mr. Ryan. This is just for you, Mr. Ryan.
Got it.
Being a school board trustee requires many hours, all volunteer. I don't know if you're aware of this. Throughout the year, can you commit to the hours necessary to represent the taxpayers and stakeholders of Cy-Fair?
That's the question?
That's the question.
Okay. Yeah, I've committed for 17 years, and I will say all of why I'm able to do this is because of having a supportive wife. Make no mistake about that. She supported me from day one, continues to support me. We had our board training after our last board work session, and there was a quote in there that had a huge impact on me. And the quote was, it was from our trainer, it said, "You can pretend to care, but you cannot pretend to show up." And I've been showing up for actually 20 years, but 17 as a board member. So do I have the time? Absolutely. Do I have the record? Absolutely. Will I continue to do it? Undeniably, yes. Because you can't pretend to show up. And folks, I show up.
Any other comments? All right, this next question is for all candidates. We'll begin with Dr. Ogletree. Mr. Covey has stated that he will defend public education from the privatization movement, which could possibly destroy free public education. What is each candidate's position on the use of public money vouchers for private and faith-based education?
I am opposed to the use of vouchers for private schools. Any use of vouchers would hurt our public education. And I believe that if a parent wants to have their child in a private school, that's a decision that they make, and they should have the means to do that, but it should not take away from public education. I think Cypress-Fairbanks does such a great job in educating our students that it will be a waste of money for a parent to have their school in a private school, but that's their choice. Everything and more can be found in our district, and I'm against vouchers.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
I'm going to echo what John said. I'm not in favor of vouchers. If you look at our community, 90%, 98% of the school-aged children in our community that have the option to attend a school of their choice attend Cypher ISD. And so when you already look at the inequitable funding that we have, I believe that, and you look at the fact that in Cypher ISD, and it's not just a hashtag, it is opportunity for all. When you have opportunities across the board on every campus, I'm not in favor of, quote, school choice, thinking that, well, my child's at Cy-Fair, but I really want them to go to Cy Springs because I want them to have access to a particular program at Cy Springs. They have access to that program at Cy-Fair, or vice versa. I just picked out 2 random campuses, but you could say it for anybody. But I am opposed to vouchers. I will remain opposed to vouchers. Number one, I don't think the state would require the same accountability for the tax dollars that they do for us, and I think that's an unfair playing field at the end of the day, and I'm not in favor of that.
Dr. Blassingame?
I'm not, I'm 100% a public school supporter. And I believe it's the foundation of our country, our democracy, our roots. And so I'm not in favor of us pulling it apart and funding vouchers. However, I'm very much in favor of finding out why families in our district choose to go to private or faith-based schools, because I don't think they can do it better than we can. I think we need to listen to the voices of the community members who are not choosing us, and find out what it is that they provide. And it might not be that you're choosing a school for a different program, but there may be a way that we can offer programming in a smaller setting, or something that offers something like dual language instruction that allows families to make some choice for themselves that doesn't make them feel they need to choose off into private or faith-based schools.
Mr. Covey?
I'm totally against vouchers, as you just stated. And my main problem with it is that there is no accountability and actually no transparency. We're not held to the same accountability, or they are not, to us. And I don't understand how any conservative and or liberal, for that fact, would be willing to take taxpayer dollars and put into a private entity that has no accountability and no transparency. I know Senator Taylor made the comment, well, the parents will hold them accountable. Well, I'm sorry. That's not enough, because, again, it's not the same thing as us being accountable to the state of Texas and to our students. And the accountability to our students is what's really important. But it's amazing to me to think that somebody is due their tax money so they can take that money and put into a private institution that is not going to be accountable, because it takes all of us collectively to have money to cover the costs for our students. My taxes I pay on my house are not going to pay for any one of my kids to go to school for that year. So anyone that out there thinks that they need their taxes back, it'd be the same thing as you wanting your homeowners association to only handle the street right in front of your house, and you're going to use your money just to keep your street up to date. So I am totally against it. I'm appalled and amazed that any of our elected representatives would be for that, and I think it's trying to destruct public education.
Thank you. We've come to our final question of tonight's forum. This is for Dawn and, Dr. Blassingame. How do you believe the district should balance attention and resources between ambitious, high-achieving students and students at risk with greater academic needs? Dr. Blassingame, we'll start with you.
I think that's the whole point, is that we need to address every student's needs at the level they need it addressed so that they can be successful. In my experience, high ambitious students can benefit from instruction by highly qualified teachers. They don't have to have quite as small of a class size. They learn from each other in collaborative groups. They are driven to resources we can provide digitally for SAT prep, and will drive themselves. They will drive us. I've seen them at the board meetings, right, asking for the advanced math and the other programs. So I think that we meet their needs fully and make sure they're thriving, but then we also know that those are not the exact same, and maybe it's more labor intensive for students who are struggling. What was the term they used in the question?
That are at risk with greater academic needs.
Yes, I think that there are many at-risk students who may be low SES who are also highly ambitious and achieving, so those don't separate. But I think if you look at your data and you look at the 15-point discrepancy between students in our system, Hispanic, Black, and white students in our system, we need to see where are those students that are not making it, and we need to look at what resources it takes. And those resources may be different. They may be a foundation of literacy. It may be a class size reduction. It may be more reading support. It may be more math support. It may be more extracurricular activities and sports that have access, or clubs that are interesting to those students. So I think that it comes down to high expectations for all, and then the on-ramps and the bridges and the programs and the supports needed to get them there might need to be differentiated.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
This is the last question of the night.
It is.
Okay, and y'all started the clock while I said that. Listen, we're going to make sure the resources are available, but since it's the last question of the night and we haven't got to talk about this, one of the ways that we are doing that is our College Academy. It's a program, it's a first-year program at Cy Lakes High School where we've taken 142 students, economically disadvantaged. They're going to graduate in 4 years of high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. What makes that program even greater, because other districts have it, but what other districts don't do that we're doing is that other districts are encouraging and allowing those kids to participate in extracurricular and co-curricular activities, so they're still getting that high school experience. Another way that we're doing it is that we just, at their last board meeting, we're instituting a new pre-K program with Kids Are Kids for economically disadvantaged 3 and 4 year olds, that we've got a $450 million grant. That's another way we're doing it. In Cypher ISD, we innovate and we implement. It's what we do. It's who we are. We don't look across and say, hey, I wonder what they're doing over there. We accept the challenge, we meet the challenge, and we address it head on. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. With this time, allow for a minute for each candidate to give closing remarks. We will go in reverse order. We'll start with you, Mr. Covey.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and for anybody that's willing to live stream this or watch it on the television. My wife couldn't be here tonight, as I was telling some other people. She had the option of going and babysitting our 4-month-old granddaughter coming to the forum, so when she did that, the granddaughter won. So I appreciate you being here. I have considered it an honor and just an amazing adventure to be able to serve on this board for the past 12 years. I look forward to serving here more. I look forward to working with my counterparts on the board and pursuing what is the best that we can do for all students. It is opportunity for all. And I'll also say that you have to stop and take a look at the people that are running and know that what we're wanting to do is for the best of all students in this district.
And that's, sometimes a new voice can bring some new ideas for all the students in our district. I respect and honor these gentlemen who have served on this board. It's not an easy decision to decide to run against people who are awesome and wonderful public servants. It's also not easy to bring up the flaws in a very fabulous system that is the strongest around in the region, and a place I'm proud to live in, and a place I'm proud to have my daughter in school. But I do think I might bring just a little something fresh to this board. We've had the same leadership for many years, and it's excellent leadership, but there are some new challenges in our system. I present to you someone who is a mother of a school-age child in the school. I am an educator. As we make decisions, I can understand how our governance decisions impact the classroom every day. I am a community volunteer. I do know that most people are very, very happy, but there are a few people out there who want something a little different, and maybe I could be the voice to bring suggestions and ideas to my team of 8 to take our system through our changes and shifts in demographics to the other side with excellence and opportunity for all. I will appreciate your vote. Thank you. Gracias a todos.
Mr. Ryan?
I wasn't sure since I don't speak Spanish. I'm just kidding. I know. Listen, it's been a blessing and a joy to serve as a volunteer board member. It really has. You know, when you grow up here and you get the opportunity to give back to your community, and when you see your friends' parents' names on the side of the school, I am passionate about Cy-Fair ISD. I'm passionate about public education. That quote I shared earlier about you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. We've had countless elections where people have pretended to care, and then they're gone. They don't show up. You never see them again. And so that's why, in my opinion, I do think experience should be valued. Experience is something that should not be overlooked. When you see where we were and where we've come from, and that I've been a part of a team that has gotten us from point A to the next point, then I think that's valued. And I also think, don't misunderstand me, I'm not sitting here boasting saying that we can't improve. That's why I think I'm an effective board member, is because I realize we can improve. And I realize that we have the administrators and the leaders in place so that we can improve. So I would appreciate your vote on November 7th. Actually, early voting starts Monday. Vote for me then. That would really be appreciated. So I'd like to thank everyone for attending and appreciate you guys coming out tonight. And I'm sorry that the Astros lost. I really, that hurt me a lot.
You seem to make it through all right.
I'll make it through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Ogletree?
I want to thank this community for entrusting in me this position that I have served in for now 4 terms, and I don't take it lightly. And I am happy to be a part of Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. My priority is the student, and that we have this motto, opportunity for all. You've probably heard me say this over and over again tonight because it so resonates with what I've been about from day one in serving on this board. I'm thankful for Dr. Henry and his administrative team, but I'm also thankful for the board members that I've served with that I know well, and how we've worked to make sure that there's quality education in this district. I just ask you to vote, and vote what you know. Vote for who's proven that you can trust them with your students and with your money. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, on behalf of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District and the residents within this community, thank each of you for your willingness to step forward and volunteer for the position on the Board of Trustees. We all know that the strength and health of and having a thriving school district impacts us all. It impacts our business, it impacts our communities, it impacts us all. So y'all agreeing to serve and y'all agreeing to be here tonight is very valuable. I have a great vantage point from being here each year, and I truly appreciate that, and thank y'all for serving. Please remind those that were not here in attendance this evening or are watching online that the importance of casting their vote on or before November 7th. As Mr. Ryan noted, early voting begins Monday, October 23rd, and have a safe trip home and good night.